Now let's bring Illinois in focus with Tuesday's primary election set to determine who will be the Republican candidate to take on incumbent Governor J.B. Pritsker, who's running for a third term for governor. Joining us now is businessman Rick Heidner. Rick, you are new to running for public office. Why have the governor's seat as that first thing you're looking to grab?
Well, first of all, Greg, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Well, what really happened was my heart and my soul just kept dragging me into this and saying, Rick, you have to run. Rick, you have to run. I just absolutely couldn't stand to see all the people here in Illinois, all of our citizens, so many of them being hurt by these insane things that our governor has done here, making us a sanctuary state, this SAFETY Act. I just kept seeing people getting harmed, and it made no sense to me, and that's the biggest reason that I ran.
Businessman, you've grown a business that's in multiple states, hundreds of employees, a lot of different real estate. How does that translate to running, say, a state government like Illinois?
Well, just like the United States of America is the biggest business in the world, and we've got Donald Trump who's running that business for us right now and taking care of our country. Illinois is one of the biggest states in the country, and we should have a businessman that's running that. The business part for me is the easiest part. When I saw this last fall session and all they were doing is the same thing they always do, is how much can we take from you? How much can we take from you? How much more can we take from you? And it's just never, how do we make Illinois make more money? How do we get businesses in Illinois? Instead, they've chased some of the best businesses there are in the country out of Illinois, Caterpillar and Boeing. And, I go back to Ken Griffin, one of the most charitable men in the country, giving hundreds of millions of dollars in charities to our beautiful state. And here he is in Miami with 1,100 of the best jobs we had here, taking most of those with him too. It makes no sense to me again. And now we're going to lose the Bears possibly because of the incompetence of our governor and the way the state's being run.
Rick, one issue that seems to pop up from time to time is those across the state who have voted non-binding resolutions to split the state into two, indicating that people are frustrated and they want to see somehow, a separation of Chicago and the suburbs from the rest of the state. What are your thoughts on that sentiment, and how do you as governor try to bridge that divide, especially with voters in the southern part of the state south of I-80?
Well, we have to worry about everybody in the state. We're never going to be splitting our state in half. That's never going to work, and it would never be possible. But I've been able to work with both the Democrats and the Republicans my entire career. I've built a lot of buildings and businesses throughout the state. One of my businesses is highly regulated. I've gone downstate and worked with the legislators there. I'm going to have an open door policy. I want everyone to be welcome to come in and talk about anything. You're either going to make sense or you're not going to make sense. I'm a very reasonable person. I absolutely could work with both sides, and I'm very excited too. So I want to bring everybody back together. I want to make Illinois a state of welcoming new businesses. I want to, obviously, we're going to have to participate in some of those builds. Which I'm very willing to do, and I understand how it works. They're going to generate a lot of tax. So we're going to give some of that tax money hopefully back to them and get them excited to build here.
Rick, some are saying that you're the Trump of Illinois. Others will say, well, Trump's really bombastic and, he's kind of, unhinged, we've heard Democrats say. I guess if you could compare yourself to the president, is it just the businessman aspect, or do you also maybe have some bombast?
Well, I am very like-minded with the president. I may approach things a little bit differently than him. Like I said, I could resonate with really almost every citizen in Illinois. I've come from absolutely nothing. We were the the poorest of the poor when we were, living in a lower middle class area, and we were the poor kids in the neighborhood. Raised by a single mother. She never really made more than $100 a week before my brother and I were 16 years old, and 2 weeks rent to pay 2 weeks pay to make one month's rent. And then I built a large business. I've had to rent from people. I've been an employee. I've been an employer. I pay real estate taxes. I understand all of it. And so I really believe that I understand pretty much where anybody could be in life right now, because I've lived a big part of it. Not 100%, obviously, but well into the 90s.
Now, Rick, of course, you got to get through a primary, and I want to get your thoughts on the three others who you're up against in tomorrow's election. But say you do make it past the primary, and you've got Governor J.B. Pritsker, who's running for a third term. How do you go up against his money? How do you go up against his political influence in a state that's dominated by Democratic politics? How would you, a Republican, handle that?
Well, another reason why I ran, when I looked at the candidates that were running on the Republican side, I realized that none of them could beat J.B. Pritsker. I can tell you that of all the candidates, trust me, he does not want me to be the Republican that's going to be going against him one-on-one. I've had battles with the administration before. Thank goodness I was able to surpass that. And I want to bring the Republican Party all together. I think I can get help from the entire country. And I don't think you'll be surprised, but there's a lot of Democrats that actually don't like him at all. There's a lot of people afraid of him because of his wealth. He uses his wealth as a weapon. He uses his political power as a weapon. I don't think that's what you should be doing in life or in politics. If they give me a chance, I'm going to be the guy that's going to be able to beat him, and I will stand up to him in a room very, very well.
Well, and Rick, I started covering Illinois state government when a Democrat was in office after Rod Blagojevich. And then you had Bruce Rauner come in, and he was a businessman. He was new to politics, got elected. But then I watched 2.5 years of a budget impasse with the Democrat-controlled legislature, going at loggerheads with a Republican governor who was a businessman. How do you avoid that from happening again?
That was a different time. He got in a big fight argument with Michael Madigan, and that
he's now in prison.
And that was it. Okay. I mean, basically the state got shut down. I don't have that same problem. I can work with both sides. We don't have the same thing right now here in Illinois, and I've done this my whole life, and it's a different thing. Again, I've done a lot of business here. I've worked with both sides. I'm going to continue to work with both sides. I'm going to have an open door policy. And again, anybody reasonable, I'm more than happy to sit with them and talk with them. We're not going to shut down the state for 4 years. We're not going to shut it down for 2.5 years. That was a tragedy. I was working with a lot of charities back then. All the charities, none of them got their money during that time and suffered tremendously. And that's not good. And I'm going to tell you one thing: if anything like that even begins to happen, you'll see me screaming on the media constantly.
Well, Rick, finally here, tomorrow is the day, right? March 17th, polls open early, they close at 7. How do you distinguish yourself from the other three running in this race?
Well, once again, I'm the only candidate that can stand up to J.B. Pritzker's and beat him. And, the other candidates, we have a wonderful farmer, and I'm sure he does a wonderful job downstate with his acres and his farming. And we have Sheriff Mendrick, by the way. Then he's going to be actually probably the first person I hire. when I become governor. We've talked. We get along very well, and I think he has a tremendous avenue if I win in my administration. Ted, not as much. I don't understand Ted completely, but if you vote for me, we're gonna be together, and we're going to defeat JB Pritsker. So I appreciate your time, Greg. Having me on the show so that people can know me, and hopefully they'll vote for me. And I appreciate the vote that I can get from them.
Well, Rick Heidner, candidate for the Republican nomination for governor to potentially take on Illinois Governor J.B. Pritsker, greatly appreciate you taking the time for the Center Square Daily and Illinois in Focus.
We'll talk to you after I win.
All right, we'll be in touch. From my studio in Central Illinois, I'm Greg Bishop, and be sure to join us back here Tuesday for more stories impacting you, the taxpayer, from around the country, only with the Center Square Daily.